The battlefield had fallen silent. Only the faint hum of cooling plasma and the hiss of distant fires broke the stillness. The war between humans and the Vaelorians had stretched across 6 systems and left entire moons scorched, but for this one fragile moment, peace hovered in the smoke. Captain Elias Varren stood at the edge of the ruined citadel, his armor cracked and his energy blade flickering at his side. The once gleaming plates of his exosuit, white and gold, were smeared with alien ash. He had fought for 16 hours straight to defend someone who, a week ago, he would have called an enemy. Her name was Princess of Vaelora, heir to the crystalline throne of a world humanity had nearly destroyed. Now she stood before him, breathing shallowly, her silver hair tangled and her translucent skin glowing faintly from bioluminescent veins beneath the surface. Even battered and bruised, she was otherworldly, beauty woven from starlight and sorrow. "Your kind fights with madness," she said softly, her voice carrying the musical lilt of her people. "Even after saving me, you do not stop until everything is ash." Elias removed his helmet, the magnetic seals hissing open. The alien air was thin, sharp like glass in his lungs. He smiled faintly. "That's humanity, your highness. We fight hardest when there's nothing left to fight for." She tilted her head, her eyes, opalescent and depthless, studying his face. "You risked your life for me. Why?" He glanced at the horizon, where the suns of Vaelora were setting, twin spheres of molten violet. "Because no one else would. Because maybe saving one life, even yours, makes up for what we've done." The princess frowned, confusion shadowing her expression. "I do not understand your logic, human. You destroy, then try to save. You invade, then weep for the fallen. What are you truly?" He laughed softly, a weary, human sound that echoed strangely in the alien air. "That's a question even we don't know how to answer." The memory of war. They found shelter that night in the ruins of an ancient Vaelorian temple. The statues of winged beings had been blasted apart, but one still stood, half eroded, reaching toward the stars as if begging them to return. Saria sat by the fire Elias built, her slender fingers tracing glowing lines into the date, symbols of her people. "We once believed the stars were alive," she whispered, "that they sang to us. Now, when I listen, all I hear is silence." Elias set down his plasma rifle and removed the heavy chest plate of his armor. His breath caught as cold air hit the deep burns across his shoulder. "Silence isn't always bad," he said quietly. "Sometimes it's a universe telling us to start over." She turned to him, eyes narrowing. "Start over? After killing billions?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked down at his bare hands, scarred, trembling. "You're right," he admitted. "We destroy more than we create. But every now and then, we meet someone who makes us want to be better." Her gaze lingered on him. "And who is that for you, Elias Varren?" He looked at her and smiled faintly. "You, maybe." Saria blinked, visibly taken aback. "You are strange, human. You say things that confuse the mind and warm the heart at once." He chuckled. "That's our specialty. When the armor falls." By morning, the enemy had found them. Vaelorian rebels, those who still believed all humans were monsters, descended upon the temple. Blades of light flashed through the air. Plasma burnstone. Elias shielded the princess with his body, his armor taking blow after blow until it was more ruined than metal. When the last of the rebels fell, Elias collapsed to his knees. The power core in his armor sputtered, lights dimming. "You need to go," he gasped. "They'll send more." But Saria ignored him. She reached out, her glowing hand trembling as it touched the edge of his armor's chestplate. "You hide behind this shell," she said, her voice trembling. "Behind metal and machines. I have never seen what lies beneath." Her words were half question, half plea. Elias hesitated. Then, With a grunt, he reached up and released the final seal. The armor fell away piece by piece, clattering to the ground until only the undersuit remained. When he peeled that away, the princess gasped softly. Beneath the armor was not the invincible warrior she had imagined, but a man covered in scars, pale skin marred by burns, cuts, and old wounds. His body trembled, exhausted, fragile. His heart beat visibly in the hollow of his throat. "This," he said quietly, his voice raw, "is humanity." Seria's luminous eyes widened. "You bleed. You suffer." He nodded. "We're not gods, not monsters, just people who build armor to hide how afraid we are." The princess stepped closer, her hand hovering over his chest. When her fingers touched his skin, she flinched. It was warm, burning compared to her cool, crystalline flesh. "You are fire," she whispered. "You destroy because you fear the dark." Elias looked up at her, meeting her gaze. "And you? You hide in light because you're afraid to see what burns." They stood in silence for a long moment, two beings from worlds apart, bound by the same ache. Then, gently, Seria leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. Her bioluminescent veins glowed brighter, intertwining with the faint pulse of his heartbeat. For the first time, she saw what no Vaelorian had ever seen before, the flicker of a human soul. A fragile dawn. Days passed. The war ended not with a treaty, but with exhaustion. Both sides had lost too much. The survivors laid down their arms, if only because they had nothing left to lift them. Elias recovered slowly, his wounds healing under Seria's care. Together, they walked the ruins of what had once been her capital. The skies were still choked with ash, but faint traces of blue began to break through. "I don't know if our worlds can ever forgive each other," Elias said quietly. "Forgiveness is not given," Seria replied. "It is learned." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe that's something we can learn together." She turned to him, her silver hair catching the light. "You have shown me what humanity truly is, not strength or conquest, but the courage to be fragile." She paused. "Perhaps the stars will sing again if we both learn to listen." Elias looked up at the twin suns rising. "Maybe they already are." The epilogue. Years later, when the peace accord was finally signed, historians would argue about the moment the war truly ended. Some said it was the day the weapons fell silent. Others said it was the day a human soldier and an alien princess stood together beneath the dawn and decided not to fight. But among the people, human and Vaelorian alike, a different story spread. They spoke of the warrior who removed his armor and showed the galaxy what humanity really was. Not perfect, not pure, but capable of love, even after the fires of war. And somewhere, in a quiet temple rebuilt from the ashes, a silver-haired queen still kept a single piece of cracked human armor beside her throne, its surface etched with one simple phrase: "We are more than what we destroy."